Mike, thank you so much for joining me here.
Thank
I'm
you for having
so
me.
happy to meet you finally.
Pleasure, yes.
I feel like I've been following you forever.
Okay.
I had, first of all, I love dogs. Okay, so I like dogs more than I like people.
Me too.
Which I feel like you do.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
I started with Brussels Griffins. I have a Pomeranian, all dogs that I've spent money on. Okay. And then something happened in my life where I, by chance, rescued a dog. And it's
Okay.
a part pit bull, part Siberian Husky. Crazy dog.
Misunderstood.
Misunderstood.
That's a misunderstood
But
mix
I
right
went to animal control
Okay.
with my dog. I didn't start there. I started at the ASPCA. It was closed. It was a snow day. My daughter and myself and her friend Olivia, we end up saying, let's go volunteer for the day at animal control. Worst place in Manhattan. I mean, that place is
You don't
so
like it?
scary. No, I had nightmares just from being there. I was in tears the whole time to watch those dogs, how loud it is, how hot it is in there. The cages face a wall. They don't even see each other. All they're doing is barking. And my daughter and her friend came over crying. Mom, you have to get this dog. This is our dog. This is our dog. And I looked at the dog. And I was just like, I can't leave it here. It's going to make me cry thinking about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't leave this dog. But I didn't want to leave any of the dogs. Okay. So that was the first time that I had a real rescue that looks pit bull. I was like, how am I going to handle this dog? Best decision I ever made. I learned. So most misunderstood breed,
Yeah.
for sure.
I love to hear, I hate to hear that, but I also love it.
Yeah.
The reason why I love it is because when I first started this mission in 2017, that's exactly what I wanted to change. I wanted to be the change for sheltered animals.
Yeah.
You know, dogs end up needing rescue because of being failed by humans.
Right.
I feel that the ACC is ran by failed humans that do not care about the animals.
Yeah.
They care more about a paycheck. They care more about holidays on the weekend, getting home at 5 o'clock.
Right.
And more importantly, they just don't care about the animals. The conditions that they live in, it's seen all over. It's not made up. It's not a joke and it's not a lie, but it's looked right past.
Yeah.
And I feel like the only people that could change that are the people that actually do the work. So that's why I wanted to separate myself from that shelter.
Right.
And that's how I started to create my safe haven. I call it a safe haven. People say shelter. You could call it whatever you want. You know, where there's a bunch of dogs living could be considered a shelter. Could be considered, you know, a jail cell. Like whatever you want to. Like, you know, I look at ACC and I think about jail. You know, and I also think that, you know, the prison system is also broken. I feel that if they did the same thing that I do for dogs, if they did it with the guys in prison, that we would have men coming out of prison as changed men, trying to make a difference in the world, because it's not a life for anybody.
And we have a mutual friend, Zach Scow,
Zach
who
Scow
does
is a
something.
mentor of mine.
Yeah,
He's a big
and he
brother.
does something similar. I've had him on
He
the
does.
show,
Yeah.
and I'm going to start working with him to try and take what he's implemented in California and bring it in all the states, because I think what he does for prisoners, what he does for animals that are on the euthanasia list is so phenomenal and life-changing.
It's truly amazing to actually sit there. I've met with those men.
Yeah.
I met with 20-something of them 2 years ago. And just to hear their stories on how they didn't think that they had a chance in this world.
Right.
And
And
when
everyone
Zach
has
came in
given
with
up
the
on
dog, and,
them.
yeah. And Zach had come in with a dog, and their entire life has changed to the point that they got early release, and now they leave prison with a purpose and also a skill. They leave that prison, that program, as dog trainers.
Right.
So being a dog trainer is very difficult. A lot of people just think it's basic training. Like, these guys come out, they know how to evaluate a dog. They know how to address a dog. Like, you know, a broken soul is a broken soul. So when you have a recovered man who actually comes across this dog who truly needs him, it makes that man feel like he's worth something. And it's not only prisoners. I'm an addict, and I didn't make it to prison, but it's the same. You know, I come from the same background.
So, okay, you mentioned the word purpose, which I think is part of where your story began. But let's rewind for a minute about your childhood, about your trauma, your addiction, and how you found your purpose.
Yeah, so I was, ironically, I was raised by a narcotics detective.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I was also raised by gangsters on Little Italy. I'm actually working there right now. So I was one of five. I was the fourth child. My parents were amazing. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. My father was, you know, a narcotics detective, but he worked 4 or 5 jobs to do whatever he had to do for his family.
Okay.
So what happened with me was that, you know, I was mentally abused at 11 years old by a dentist. I had a dentist. I went in for some cavities, and this man slapped his hand on the table and screamed in my face that I would have no teeth in my mouth by the age of 30.
Okay.
And at that point in my life, I just felt totally like worthless, and that I was never going to amount to anything.
Was that something personal, or that's just how he treated everybody?
I don't know, because I never
Wow.
spoke about it.
Wow.
Ironically, I spoke when I did come forth, and when I changed my life around, and I started to study my life because I did want to make a difference.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the root of my problem was, because I was so comfortable for so many years being that man, or that broken man. When I started to study is when I really remembered like that exact moment. Ironically, a kid down the block from me told me that dentist pulled a tooth out of his mouth with no Novocaine when he was like 16 years old. It was like 20-something years. And it scarred him too, and he ran from the dentist as well, to the point that he had to have major surgery as well. So I think that it's been done to many kids in his share. But it just...
well, it started there with somebody making you feel badly about yourself.
yeah, it just made me feel like, because teeth are very important, I was embarrassed. I was ashamed already. I did have insurance. It's just that I never went, because I didn't care about the dentist at that point.
Okay.
I didn't think of my future with it, Hereditary, I don't have the best of teeth. Some people are blessed with these beautiful smiles. We don't have the best of teeth, but I definitely could have went to the dentist and got my teeth fixed.
Okay.
So from 11 years old, I was mentally abused, and it just made me feel like just defeated as a little boy, and I became like this kid I became a bully. I was always in trouble. I love violence. I love to... I had a problem with any type of law enforcement. I had a problem with. I just had a problem with anybody in authority.
You would talk back.
I would talk back. I would fight. I would spit. I didn't
care about the
I didn't care
consequence?
about anything or anyone. And
What did your dad say to you about
Well,
this?
in front of my father, I didn't act this way.
Got it.
In front of my parents, I was. I had a thing like growing up. I was always like drawn to the older people. So like, if I was at a party, I'd always be sitting with older people, because that's where I felt comfortable.
Okay.
But when I was around certain people, I acted a certain which way, But, I never really spoke about my trauma, because I was raised by a tough narcotics detective, and also gangsters that, you just don't talk about it. Men get through it.
Uh-huh.
And, nowadays I kind of tell people the complete opposite. I don't think that I would have become the man that I become if I didn't, if I spoke about it at an early age, because it would have, number one, would have been fixed. But number two is that I would have let it out. So, when you get comfortable being something that you're not, that's all you turn to, So instead of learning how to get through situations and address the inner side of me, I was just looking on the outside of me. But
Right.
meanwhile, my teeth were rotten out of my face, and, the only thing that I could do was cover it up by being somebody that I'm not.
Got it.
So many years later, it just got so bad. I mean, I remember sitting in bed and hiding it from everybody. I would be popping my own abscesses in my mouth and sucking the infection out, because, that's the only thing that I knew, and that's what I was comfortable doing, and lying to everybody when they're like, your face is swollen. I'd be like, oh, I just have a toothache. But meanwhile, it's an abscess. And, the oral pain really, for 20-something years, it was unbearable, but I bared with it.
They say that when you have something wrong in your teeth, it could actually like kill you. Like there's...
Yeah, it could go to your brain.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons why I actually made a choice to make a phone call and ask for help. It got to the point where I was extremely nervous if this was going to happen, because my problems had gotten so bad. I called a woman, Jamie, that I knew from 42nd Street. And she worked for a dentist, and I said, like, what type of dentist do you work for?
Uh-huh.
It's about this time that I addressed this problem. And she's like, what problems are you talking about? So I said, can I call you? And I called her, and I told her exactly what happened. And I asked her, I said, I don't have the finances to just come in and give all this money. I don't have credit. I just run my whole life down to the ground. And, I need help. But I'm not looking for anything for free. I'm just looking for somebody who will give me a payment plan. So she said, just come in. Dr. Regan will definitely take care of you. So when I grabbed enough strength to go and face a dentist, I walked into the dentist. My palms were dripping sweat.
Aww.
I was nervous. I was crying. And I told him exactly my story. But I've already been 3 years into this mission, and they heard about me.
Right.
So he was honored to help me. He didn't know what the problem was. Like, I didn't speak about this because
When
I
you
was
say
just
mission, you mean
pit bulls and
the
addicts.
dog
Like, I
mission.
changed my
Yes,
life around,
right,
and he was super proud of me. But not too many people knew about the reason why I was who I was.
Mm-hmm.
So when I sat down with him and I told him this story in more detail, it touched him in a way that he wanted to help me. So he did all pro bono work. He was a specialist in Manhattan. That man saved my life. I could tell you that Dr. Reagan and Dr. Chen are the two reasons why I'm able to stand up and speak with people proudly and not be ashamed of who I am. Right. I notice now, and I realize how important a smile is and how important it is just on an everyday. Forget about the smiles and looking good. I'm able to eat and not be in pain.
Right.
I'm not worried about my teeth falling out of my face. I'm not worried about anything anymore. That was the only thing that was holding me down. And the reason why it was holding me down is because it's the one thing that a human can't fix themselves.
That's true.
Mostly anything else you could fix. You could figure it out.
Right.
Again, if it's a disease, if it's a cancer, obviously you need doctors. But in my mind, it was the one thing that was holding me back from becoming the man I am today. So when I did finally go and address it, he said, that everybody in the office was fully on board to work with me and get me through this, and he meant it. And
right.
The woman who did my first cleaning, I was just so embarrassed, and she was just like, listen, we've dealt with this before. I work with children, so anytime you're uncomfortable, raise your hand, I'll stop. I want to help you get through this. And at that point, I realized, I'm in a good place,
right.
And it kind of made me feel at home. So that from that day forward, I had no problem going to a dentist. I had no problem going in for surgery. I also thought that, when they removed the teeth that were no good anymore, that I was going to, have to sit for months and not be able to eat and, all of the things that you just see what's going on. People
mm-hmm.
have an oral surgery, they can't eat for a month, or they, have no teeth in their mouth for 6 months, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I was just ready and willing to do it,
right.
And Harrison Chen ripped out 17 teeth in one sitting. Mm-hmm. I sat 45 minutes, he ripped, and they were all such clean pulls because he's a specialist. The next day I woke up, there was no swelling. I was able to go to work. I was able to feel that there's a brighter future ahead.
Right.
And then, within a couple of months, I was going back and forth. They were, doing their work, and, I walked out of there about a year later, and I was able to smile.
Well, you look great.
Thank you.
You have a great smile.
I never thought that this was going to happen, to be honest with you.
Right.
But it happened, and I feel like, as long as I continue to do good and to spread love and be a good man, that good things are going to happen to me.